Hi, I'm Illah Nourbakhsh. I'm a professor of robotics at Carnegie Mellon's Robotics Institute. And I want to talk about a lecture that I just gave at South by Southwest where we announced a whole new product called the Speck sensor. And if you weren't there and you weren't able to catch it, we thought it would be useful to have this on tape. Let's start this way. 2 weeks ago, Chicago University announced their results on air quality hazards in India. And the results were fairly stunning. 50% of the citizens of India are going to live 3.5 years less than they otherwise would live just because of particulates in the air. And India is not alone. You know about China already. It's a horrible set of statistics in China. Something like 80 million people in the urban areas alone have asthma. 40% increases in asthma every 4 or 5 years. And, you know, asthma is not the only problem that air quality poses. And India and China are not the only places that it poses it. Look at Pittsburgh. I wish I could say that every day in Pittsburgh is crystal clear and beautiful. But unfortunately, it's not true. Pittsburgh actually looks very smoggy about 240 days a year. 240 days a year when it's rated as dangerous and unhealthful air. It's a disaster. So we know about asthma. We know that air particulates trigger asthma. But in fact, just over the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen incredible reports of other connections. For instance, just the last 2 weeks, reports came out connecting air pollution to low birth weight pregnancy, to autism, to ADHD. We have always known that it's directly related to arrhythmia, to cardiovascular disease, to pulmonary disease. It's a disaster. And it's interesting because my daughter would go to sleep coughing, and I would look at her and chalk it up to a lingering cold. It's not a lingering cold. That's nonsense. It was bad air quality. And after we ended up developing Speck, I figured that out, put an air filter in her room, and the problem went away. But you need to know that there's a problem to be able to solve it. And that's what this is all about. Now, you can today go to SPECSensor.com and actually type in your zip code and see the air quality in your city. But what you're seeing is the air quality reported by this refrigerator-sized unit called a TIOM that's on the roof of the health department building. That's useful. It gives you a sense of what the air is like outside. But if you look at a map of the number of these TIOM units around the country, there's only a few hundred. It's very sparse. And it's just giving you a general impression of the air across the whole city. Nothing about that helps you make your home a safer environment for your kids. Nothing about that tells you whether you're vacuuming with the right kind of vacuum, whether the cooking oil you're using is actually making a disaster of air pollution in your room, in your house or not, whether the kitchen hood extractor that you turn on is actually venting the air out or if it's just recirculating the air. And believe it or not, about half of them do that. They just push the air right back into your kitchen, basically spitting in the wind. So really what we need is the ability to measure all of this and to really give people real-time feedback for how the air quality is changing in their home. So for the past 4 years, the CREATE Lab's been working on trying to make the invisible, air pollution, truly visible. And we're talking particulates. We're not talking about carbon dioxide or VOCs. We're talking about the stuff that causes asthma, arrhythmia, cardiovascular disease, all these issues that are a very serious health concern. By the way, a local almost hard-to-believe statistic just came out. Air pollution is now killing more people in the U.S. than prostate cancer, breast cancer, and AIDS combined. In California, it kills more people than driving cars, car accidents. So it's kind of remarkable. So over the past 4 years, we've been working on this sensor. And the sensor which we're bringing out now is called the Speck, SPECSensor.com. And it is a small device that sits on a table in your house. It's Wi-Fi connected. It measures the air quality. It has a touch screen, a full-color touch screen. So it shows you the air quality immediately on screen. And it has different modes so you can see the historical values. But it reports it up to the cloud. And that's important because once it's up in the cloud, then you can view it from any mobile device or any desktop device. So you can easily see trends that are happening over the course of days, months, and years in your house. You can also compare the air quality inside your house to outside your house. In fact, on its screen, it shows you the air quality in your house, but it also shows you the air quality from the closest federal sensor to your house. That's great because in the summer you can see whether opening or closing your windows will make the air better or worse in your house. So we're really excited about that. And of course, we geek out and test it, right? The first time we did this, we put 144 of them in a single room here at Carnegie Mellon, and we ran a vacuum cleaner across one side of the room, and we saw this incredible plume of dust overcome the room toward the cold air return. And it's interesting to visualize because you get a sense of how powerful the sensors are when you have hundreds of them, when you can really start mapping this stuff. And that we find very powerful. We've also distributed them to families throughout Pittsburgh to start to get a feel for what happens. And I have 2 stories to share with you. One is a really simple story. Family had an asthmatic daughter. And in the summer here, they put an air conditioning unit in her window to try and help with her room to help her asthma. But she had quite bad asthma anyway. So they put the Speck in there, and they noticed that every time the air conditioner turned on, they got horrible values. So they discovered to their horror that the air conditioner was actually increasing the air pollution in her room rather than making better air. But they found a wonderful solution. They got a HEPA filter from Home Depot, duct taped it to the machine, and the problem went away. So that's a really nice example where the sensor empowers the family to start to understand what's happening to their home and make a change. By the way, I have stories like that for forced air systems too, where people have actually cleaned their ductwork. And depending on the company they choose to clean their ductwork, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you get to know real quickly which company is cleaning your ductwork in a way that actually improves the air quality overall. But the other story I have is about Salt Lake City. Teacher group there asked to borrow some specs, so we sent them some specs. And that's the last we heard of it until we got an amazing story back from them. They took the specs and put it in the classrooms facing the road where the parents pick up the students at 3 o'clock. They had the kids, on paper, tally how many parents are idling their car at pickup time. Then they studied how to tell their parents to decrease the amount of idling by turning the cars off when they're waiting. So then they did this. They went home and had a little communication campaign with their parents, waited a week, measured it again, and measured the air quality in the classrooms again, and then they learned to do statistical correlation tests. And these were middle school students, mind you. And the result was an amazing correlation between the amount of idling cars and the air pollution. They decreased the air pollution, they learned how to talk to their parents, and they learned that they can use scientific instruments to make their world a better place. And that's the kind of empowerment we want to see with Speck. So that to us is so important. Now, I mentioned earlier that once you record data with the Speck, it goes online. And then you can view it on this dashboard that we create that you can log into from anywhere. And that to us is a really important point that I want to drill into, because this is the era of big data and what they call the Internet of Things. Everybody loves internet-connected devices. But the idea has been co-opted a little bit, and it's been co-opted in a bad way by corporation. Corporation is basically trying to monetize your data. Their idea is that you collect data, they accrue the data, they store the data, they own the data. They evaluate it, they analyze it, they come up with analytics, and then they sell and resell that and make a whole lot of money on you. And we wanted to invert that power relationship. So our data repository is open source. It's hosted at the Create Lab. The owner of the data, when you use a Speck, is you, the user of the Speck, not us. You decide who to authenticate to see the data, you decide how to share it, and at any point in time you can export it all you want. So we put you in charge of your own data. That, to us, is a way of really thinking about empowerment in a better way. Really, it's about data justice. And to that end, we've also invited all the other air quality sensors that are hoping to come online in the next 2 years or so to host their data on our open source repository so that people can have a wearable air quality sensor, they can have one in their home, and they can collect all that data and see it in a single place. In the name of justice, we're also going to be buying multiple copies of every air quality sensor that comes out, and we're going to take our professional equipment and do transparent testing of all of them and publish that openly online in a reproducible way, so that customers can see in one place all the data and all the characteristics governing how accurate the different sensors are that will come online in the future. Of course, today, the only particulate counting sensor that you can buy, that you can put in your house and really start to trend, is the Speck sensor. So we invite you to go to specksensor.com and check it out and order one. Thank you.